Coach, a lot has been made about increasing the tempo, right, in your no-huddle offense. Are there certain ways to be able to simulate that in practice to know you're meeting certain checkpoints early in the install?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for us specifically, a lot of it has to do with us making sure we're practicing each of those tempos enough. And so we're very intentional about our script to make sure we are huddling, make sure we've got the ability to play faster, change those tempos, and the guys are doing a great job with it.
How did you just see them react the first couple days in pads?
It's been great. I mean, it's a tremendous culture here that Coach Stoops has established, and it's certainly one that prides itself on physicality. And I think that has shown up. I know when we were not in pads, a lot of that was the focus was maybe on some of the new scheme, but certainly right now the guys are playing at a really, really tough level.
As you've seen him on the field now, what's the biggest difference between Jamore Hamdan now and the guy you coached with Missouri?
Yeah, Jamore is doing a great job. He really is. I just think it's so much growth overall. You think about a young 17-year-old coming from college, coming early. They're just trying to figure their way out. They're trying to figure out how to get to class and who to kind of roll with. And I think there's just such a big level of maturity right now from him. And it's been a pleasure being back here with him.
Mark talked a lot about adding more physicality to the offensive line this offseason. Just how do you judge that? How do you notice tangible growth in that area?
Yeah, I think it's something we grade every day. It's certainly we're looking to see who can strain, and I think the number one thing for us is building competition at every position, because when you build that competition and they see 6, 7, 8 guys that could be in that starting rotation, as we all know for all of us, that makes us raise our level. So we've got periods that are built to just run the football and provide that physicality, and we like where our guys are at right now.
When you see guys like Barry you see him on video, then you see him in person, how much faster is he? And what dazzles you about him and some of the other guys that you've seen on video, but now you get to see up close?
Yeah, I think certainly in regards to Barry obviously been around those receivers a long, long time. I mean, he's got NFL talent, we know that. But certainly through the first couple of weeks, his work ethic, his resiliency day in and day out, his ability to get coached has been tremendous. He's a guy that fundamentally we feel keeps getting better and better, but it's that attitude that allows him to take that next step. So certainly proud of him, and a lot of guys really showing up in that room.
To piggyback off that, obviously getting to know all the new receivers, but also a new receivers coach. So what have you liked from Coach Shorts so far, and have you seen that relationship between Barry some of the guys and Coach Shorts?
Yeah, I think Coach Shorts has done a tremendous job just gaining trust and respect early on. I think it's a guy now that played at a high level, knows the position extremely well. Certainly a guy from a fundamental standpoint that quickly I can just see the things he's teaching them, they're taking the next step every practice. And I think that's the biggest thing with spring football. Certainly new scheme, but we cannot miss out on the fact that this is the best time to develop, the best time to take your fundamentals to the next level, and those guys are doing a great job.
How have you seen the newer local guys like Fred and Bo come in, and in Bo's case back in, to build that culture that's really important during the springtime, Coach?
I think it's critical. I think certainly this program's always going to start with that in-state talent, and I think both those guys you mentioned have really, really done a nice job. Bo has been a extremely consistent player for us at that quarterback position. Again, and I think that's the beautiful thing about college football, as we know. You're taking guys from all different walks of life, all different races, all different religions, and you come together towards a common goal. That's why we do what we do, and it's been a pleasure.
As the tight end room continues to develop and come along, I noticed a couple of young guys last year that were mentioned as being potential big-time players.
Yeah, I think so. I think I actually feel that group right now is probably further ahead than maybe any other group on the offense. I think Vince obviously does a tremendous job, but there's certainly 3 to 4 players in that group that we can go out there and win with today. And so I think we need to continue to build their role, continue to bring those guys along. But that's a group that works at it. They're very intentional about what they do. And that they're going to be a unit that's got to lead us for sure in the fall.
When it comes to the tight ends, do you use them kind of as a change-up, or can they be one of the focal points when you have so much speed and NFL-type talent at the wide receiver spot?
I think by the nature of just the tight ends and one part of being downhill run blockers, part two of being vertical pass threats. I think it's one of the most dynamic positions you can have because of the threat of both the run and pass. So I don't think we view any one position as, hey, here's our go-to position. Obviously, as we all know, each game dictates different styles of play, but a versatile tight end, as we've seen certainly in the NFL and at this level, can be a game changer.
I think Mark described Chip as a very serious guy when spring practice opened. What have you seen from his kind of work so far that kind of underscores that?
I think that's spot on. He comes off as one of those pro-like type guys who he's in here right after practice, watching the film before the coaches have watched it, asks the right questions. Again, to be able to bring in a veteran type guy that has played at a big level, knows what it's supposed to look like, is critical. We got some young running backs that are doing some really good things, and in some ways I attest that to both Chip and Demi and what they've done with those young backs and bringing them along.
Kind of going off that, you've always had great run games and have had at least 1,000-yard rusher. Is it important to you to find a bell cow, or can you just do it by committing the same way?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think you certainly, especially in college football, have got to be able to have multiple backs carry the ball and be successful. So right now that group is getting better. We talked about that tight end group. I think that running back group is potentially the most improved group of all the units. So those guys are getting a lot of reps, a lot of carries. Again, really fortunate to have Chip here. Demi's doing a great job, and the young backs are really coming along.
What are your expectations for Connor this spring as a guy who's obviously supposed to still be in high school but has a lot of talent in him?
Yeah, great question, because I know sometimes I'm like looking at him and you're coaching him, maybe like you're coaching Brock and Bo, and you realize he probably still should be going to his high school prom. So, but the expectations don't really change. It's how coachable can you be? How can we make mistakes but take the next step each and every practice? I think we all can see though, that guy's got a high ceiling, a lot of talent, and he's in a lot of ways he's why you coach.
What are the kind of early coaching points you have? Like where are the mistakes where you have to step in and kind of point out this or that for a young player like Cutter?
I think so much for Cutter is just getting used to his body. He's such a long, tall athlete. You got to be in great football position. At the quarterback position, at the offensive line, defensive line, it always starts with that. So for him, some of those coaching points just start with the feet. And we really believe the pass game for a quarterback starts with his feet, and so a lot of his development has been with that, speeding up his feet, being in a good throwing posture, and then certainly the next level is the decision-making piece. And I think as they transition from high school to college, they start to figure out that running backs are sometimes a nice security blanket for them. There's completions there. Every ball doesn't have to be thrown down the field. But man, when you got a guy with that kind of talent and that kind of coachability, there's certainly a lot of excitement driving to work every day.
You mentioned Demi, and last year they said he was a guy that they would have been comfortable in certain situations, putting him in the slot and taking advantage of receiver skills. With Ray moving on, who provided a lot of that, is he a guy who could kind of step into that role, giving you a passing option out of the backfield?
Certainly. I think if you're playing with a running back that cannot be a passing threat, it's almost like you're playing with a man down. And so whether it's our plan is to put him in the slot or motion him and allow us to create another threat, if you will, in empty sets, his ability to catch the ball has been a plus for sure.
Coach,
you're talking about check downs. A couple of years ago, Will Levis said, coming to his second year, I want to work on my ability to find receivers and check things down. Is that routinely a challenge for young quarterbacks to incorporate that in your game?
Yeah, it's a huge challenge. It's just like anything else. The more downfield the receiver is, the more attractive it is. And so they got to fight that urge of sometimes if the defense doesn't dictate that, hey, we just got to keep taking little by little by little with the belief that eventually they'll give us the game. And again, I think if you look at the ball going to those backs and the sometimes bigger linebackers that are playing them, if that guy makes that first player miss, those 6 to 7 yard throws could end up being explosive throws down the field.
Coach, you talked about some of the position groups that you really like so far. Has there been a player or two that's maybe surprised you now that you guys have been on a week on the field?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I really have been pleased with Jason Patterson, the running back. 26 has done a really nice job. Again, as a young guy, we've put him in there with the twos initially. He's moved up with the ones, really come along. I think there's some talent now in some of the younger offensive linemen as well. I think Farmer's doing a tremendous job every day, getting better, straining. And then wide receiver wise, it's a deep and talented group. It really is. Fred has come along, done some really nice things. I think Hardley's probably one of the more talented 17-year-olds I've been around at the receiver position. We just got to get things to slow down for him. So again, every group, I think there's guys that are doing some really nice things. Those are some guys that have jumped out. And again, building depth is going to be critical for us.
Couple more guys.
Coach, what's the hardest part about going against Brad White's unit at this point in time?
Just their discipline. Those guys, they know exactly what they're doing. They're well coached at all levels. They're extremely sound. It's just funny because 2-3 years at Missouri, that was the MO. Is talk about throwing checkdowns and talking about taking little by little, because these guys are gonna keep the ball in front of them, play sound defense, be well coached. It's now just trying to do that and beat that every day. So
How's the guy game plan against Deion Walker in the middle?
I don't know. That I'm not getting to yet. So those are the stresses that probably come as we get going here in August. But yeah, it looks really good when you're saying the center's going to block that guy over and over again until that guy looks like him. So certainly got to make sure we got 2 or 3 guys on him. So
Having spent time in this league before, what was your general impression when you got here and since then of the overall athleticism on this offense?
Well, my first impression was this is probably one of the toughest places I've ever had to play. So I'm going to say that. Shout out to BBN for that. Athleticism standpoint, certainly a team that I think my initial reaction was how physical the fronts were. Certainly, I remember, I believe it was 2020 maybe or 2021 coming down here, the extremely talented receiver they had on the perimeter. It seems like every year there's a back that maybe you don't expect to be one of the best in conference that ends up being that. And I don't know if I can speak to previous years as much, but there's enough talent on that field that we're gonna, have a tough job of spreading that ball around and making sure everybody's happy. So.
Very good.
Thanks, Coach.
All right.